Chapter 37. Alicia woke up to light from the window falling on her face. Over the last few days, she had become used to waking up in unfamiliar places, and she took her customary moment to reorient herself. The memories of yesterday hit her hard. Her son was still fast asleep in the bed. She paused and looked at him. He was so sweet and innocent and young. Voices from downstairs drifted into the room. It sounded like Cedar was back. Alicia rearranged the blankets so that Kenny was covered. Then she slipped out of the elven clothes she had fallen asleep in and back into her human clothes before heading downstairs. Retta and Cedar talked in loud whispers, like they were trying not to wake them up, but had gotten a bit carried away with what they were saying. Cedar had his arms folded and his customary scowl on his face, while Retta moved his arms around as he spoke. They were both standing between the stairs and the back room Retta used as a kitchen. They did not notice Alicia walking down the stairs, so she tried clearing her throat loudly. Neither of the men seemed to hear. Instead, they continued talking, focused only on each other. Finally, she spoke up. "Good morning." They stopped talking immediately and turned to watch her finish walking towards them. When they continued to stare, Alicia decided that now was as good a time as any to get her answers. "How can this place be in such disrepair? We saw people worked to death and children orphaned by the hundreds." Alicia walked up to Cedar, her voice nearly yelling. "If you knew! I know there is no way that even you could not have blindly followed this king." "I have not been in the city for quite some time. I didn't know how bad things had gotten," Cedar said. "Things have always been bad," Retta said. "You have just chosen not to see it. It is my duty to serve the royal family. I do not have to agree with their decisions." The men continued the conversation that Alicia had tried to interrupt. Cedar stood frozen with his hands folded, his feet braced and his face impassive. Retta talked with his hands and face as much as his voice. His face broadcast every expression and his hands flared with every word. The two men were opposites. Cedar with his fair complexion and stoic manner. Retta with his darker complexion and passion. Yet as Alicia watched them, she got the impression that they were less two distinct individuals and more two halves of a whole. "Your duty comes before everything," Retta said. "Yes, it does. It always will. It was a decision made for me as a child, but it still binds me as an adult." "We are all pawns in the king's world," Retta said. "We have to choose how we plan to die, either slowly starving to death out here or faster in the king's prison." "How do you get the food you feed them?" Alicia asked, once again trying to break up their argument. Retta turned and glared at her. "It is best that you do not know that." "What food?" Cedar asked. "It is best you do not know about that either," Retta said. "I get food because someone has to. I just happen to be good at it." "What do you mean?" Cedar asked. He slumped against one of the shelves of books, looking lost and conflicted. Then it vanished, and Cedar crossed his arms again and scowled more than usual. Alicia wished he had been with them and seen the things that they did. Then maybe he would do something. There was no way that he could stand by and watch all those people suffer. "You brought us here for a reason," Alicia said. "I brought you here to keep you safe," Cedar said. "You want something from us. You want something from my son." Alicia felt small next to the two men. It wasn't that they were so much taller, it was that the two men dominated so much space. "I just want to keep Kenny safe," Cedar said. "I'm not sure what our next move is, but he should be safe here for now." "I didn't mean you." Alicia turned and glared at Retta. "He wants us for something, or at least my son. He led us around yesterday showing us the desperation of this world. He wanted to get our sympathy. I just don't understand why." "I didn't show you anything that wasn't true." Retta walked to a table near the kitchen door and sat down in one of the chairs. The movement was so casual that Alicia was sure it was calculated. She tried to copy him by strolling over to the table and pulling out a chair opposite him, but the chair was heavier than expected and didn't move. She pulled it again, making a large screeching noise across the wooden floor. By the time she sat down, she was done trying to be strategic and ready to just hide. Flushed with embarrassment, her words came out more pointed than intended. "I am sure it was all true. You probably didn't have to alter your plans any to pull at our heartstrings. This world has problems. I get that. What I don't understand is what it has to do with me and my son." Sidar was still standing. His gaze was fluctuating between the two, but otherwise he was silent. "There is no heir to the throne. People are putting up with the king because no one can take his place. Did Sadar tell you how the in-between is made?" "I think he mentioned something." "The worlds are connected. Every so often a new version of our world has to be created. The closer the contact we have with the human world, the more often this happens. If we get too out of sync, our world will start to collapse and the illusion will not hold up. We need a king for that." Retta had folded his hands on top of the table. He was trying so hard to come across as calm, but Alicia could see how tense his fingers were laced together. It was something she did herself when she was anxious. "Is there another solution? Maybe if multiple illusionists work together?" "This isn't the first bad monarch we have had. They've tried in the past, but only royalty can keep the in-between going. It isn't just the refresh. It requires a constant connection. We have to have a ruler to survive." Retta nearly spit the words out. Alicia tapped her fingers on the table, thinking long and hard. "We will help you, and then we will go back to the human world where my son can grow up and lead a normal life." "You think that you will be safe just by going back to the human world?" Retta asked. "We will if we help you take down the king." "There are no other heirs left. If your son doesn't take the throne, then the entire in-between will fall. Humans will have hundreds of thousands of refugees that are hungry, tired, and full of magic. You've seen the devastation that happens when unethical magic users interact with the human world. Even those we call magicless will have complete power over your world. We are not the same people who tried to coexist thousands of years ago. Now we are just as bent as the human world. We will be the ones who try to rule. Then what will happen to your son having a normal life?" "There has to be a way. What if the veil did come down? What if there was a sort of treaty that your people would agree to follow? Maybe integrating elves back into the same world would be a good thing. If they agree not to harm, not to take over, then it could work out for everyone." "Except it would take someone powerful to make them fall in line," Retta said. "You could do it. I saw you with the people. They respect you. They would listen to you." "Elves respect power." Retta stood up, pushing the chair behind him, and started pacing on his side of the table. "I have enough magic to slip between worlds, and not enough for the guards to suspect me of doing so. I am not this figurehead that you want me to be. People will respect your son. He comes from the royal line and has the magical ability to protect the people. He is the strongest magic user we have seen in generations, maybe even ever. The people will only turn from the king to follow your son." "Why does it have to be her son?" The sound of Sadar's voice startled Alicia. She had forgotten that he was there. Retta stopped walking. When he looked up, his face was full of grief. "It has to be her son because everyone else is gone." "What do you mean?" Sadar stepped forward, reaching out to Retta instinctively. When he realized, he dropped his hand and stood still. Retta enclosed the short distance, wrapping his arms around Sadar. Sadar embraced the other man, holding him while he silently cried. Retta's head was buried in Sadar's chest. It took a minute before Retta composed himself enough to speak. They separated slightly, both men leaving an arm around the other, as if afraid to let go. "They're gone. All of them. First it was the distant cousins," Retta said. "There were a string of accidents," Sadar said. "The king and queen sent me to investigate, but there was nothing out of the ordinary, just bad timing. Then the king and queen died," Retta continued. "They died while I was away," Sadar said. "No one blames you. No one saw it coming." The two men were lost in their own world again, talking like there was no one else around. "I made it back for the funeral, but I was ordered not to attend. He sent me away as soon as I returned, on a mission to the human world. No one knows what happened." Retta's voice cracked as he spoke. "All we have are rumors. The royal healer said that they died of an illness crafted especially for them, one that only a handful of people had the skill to create. No one can confirm if it is true because he went missing. The king kept me away. Every time I completed one mission, there was something else to do. He kept me away for the last 2 years, until recently when even his orders went silent." There was a hint of anger in Sadar's voice as he spoke. "They tried to hide. Once it became apparent what was happening." Retta looked directly at Sidar desperately. Anyone who was of the royal line with a spark of magic ended up dead. I tried to hide a few. I smuggled them across, but they were found. There is no one left. No one but his son. Retta tucked his head back against Sidar's chest, his sobs audible. Sidar wrapped his arms around him, but his face looked forward in shock.